Iran emboldened. Moments after Trump officially signed the 14-point agreement with Iran, Iran's chief negotiator called the deal a, quote, record of America's failure. Iran also defiant about its missile capabilities not being negotiable and declaring victory for leaving the, quote, nuclear issue to a later stage. Now, that's Iran right now dancing on the table. But the truth is the agreement appears to have a lot for Iran to celebrate if you take a step back and look at it, and very little for the U.S. Point number 4 of the 14-point, it's a brief memo, but point number 4, let me read you this one. The United States of America further undertakes to remove its forces from the proximity of the Islamic Republic of Iran within 30 days after the final deal. Okay, what does that actually mean? Because the U.S. didn't put ground troops in Iran, right? I mean, what does it mean, proximity of Iran? There are nearly 24 American military sites across the Middle East that are right around Iran. Is this a deal to limit or retreat from the Middle East for America? I mean, what's going on here? When pressed for details, Trump said he hadn't even thought about when the U.S. military will leave the Gulf, as if it was a thing.
Good question. We haven't thought of it. We're really probably a while. It's a good place to stay. I would say a little while. See how it all goes.
I mean, it's really confusing to even understand what he's talking about. No one's ever talked about removing or downsizing or anything with U.S. bases in the Middle East. There's this pretty stunning question out there. Let's go to point number 8, which reads, quote, the Islamic Republic of Iran reaffirms that it shall not procure or develop nuclear weapons. The most important word in there is reaffirms, because Iran is categorically not going to say that this is new, because Iran has repeatedly for decades said that they are not pursuing a nuclear weapon. They've said it again and again and again. The president of Iran, Pezeshkian, told it to me in a room of reporters in October. Every single time you met with them, they said it. Here's the president of Iran speaking at the UN last year.
I hereby declare once more before this assembly that Iran has never sought and will never seek to build a nuclear bomb.
So Iran has said that again and again. Now, as to whether that actually is what they were doing, well, that's the whole point of the issue. But the fact that they're saying it is not new. And point number 6, which is getting some of the most outrage for some MAGA loyalists tonight, is this, and I'll read it. The United States of America undertakes with regional partners to develop a definitive, mutually agreed plan with at least $300 billion for the reconstruction and economic development of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Okay, this is stunning. First thing I did when I saw this was just to look up how big is the Iranian economy. According to the IMF, the entire GDP, the entire size of the entire Iranian economy last year was $371 billion. So the United States is agreeing that Iran is going to get reconstruction money that is almost equivalent to its entire economy. Let's put it another way, doubling the size of Iran's economy. Trump claims the money won't be from the U.S., but money is money, and that isn't the point. The U.S. is arranging for Iran to double its economy. That is money. That it means a lot to Iran. That is everything to Iran. And it means Trump is going against his own commitment that he vowed unequivocally on April 17th when he said, quote, no money will exchange hands in any way, shape, or form. Well, that is not the deal that he signed. And it is worth pointing out, for years, Trump hammered Obama's 2015 deal with Iran on this very exact point.
They gave billions and billions of dollars to Iran. This should have been done by Obama. He went the other way. He was giving them cash. This deal funneled tens of billions of dollars to Iran that would have funded all of the chaos and the bloodshed and the terror in the region and all throughout the world.
Now, I mean, I guess if you're counting how much money did Iran get from that deal, it's estimated that it was about $50 billion in the 2015 deal. So, of course, again, that's dwarfed by Trump. His number's 6 times that. But the Obama administration at the time defended the $50 billion very specifically by saying they weren't giving money to Iran, that it was Iran's own assets that had been frozen in foreign banks under sanctions. So nobody was handing Iran money. It was just unfreezing their own money. But now, after all of Trump's criticism of Obama and the way that Trump, you heard, talked about that money, he's now using the exact same talking point, the exact same one, as Trump's agreement with Iran could unfreeze more than $100 billion in frozen assets, double the amount that the Iranians got under Obama. Double. Here's Trump today.
We have taken their money. It's not our money. It's their money. And we froze it. At a certain point in time, I guess we're going to have to give it back.
Can we just pause for a second and remember him talking about the pallets of cash and all of those things and mocking that very same argument? And now here we are. It is stunning. And even Republicans and Trump's allies are angry and not buying the spin. Top conservative radio host Eric Erickson posting, "This is an American surrender." And Republican Senator Bill Cassidy posting, "This is the worst foreign policy blunder in decades." He, along with others, also was saying this on camera.
It's going to leave Iran stronger. It's going to leave our allies weaker. And it may commit U.S. taxpayer dollars.
I'm just wondering if the people that negotiated this have informed the president about what's in the page and a half he's going to read publicly on Friday.
We're a long way from accomplishing the objectives that the president wants to accomplish here with the Iran.
There is a ton of concern, exactly on the points that you all just laid out. However, Republicans, those same folks, are also telling me that this needed to happen. This needed to come to an end because it has been so taxing on the American economy. And you heard the president today hint at that in his press briefing, saying that he doesn't think that Americans had the stomach for this, saying that he didn't want to create an international depression and that he didn't want to be Herbert Hoover. And I think over the course of the last few months, you have seen that domestic pressure grow and grow and grow as we get closer to the midterms. So those very same Republicans that are not happy with how this turned out, most of them, first of all, didn't want the president to go into Iran in the first place, but are also breathing a very uncomfortable sigh of relief that at the very least they think and they hope that while it's not the deal that they wanted, that this is coming to a close and maybe Americans will at least feel some relief at the gas pump and it won't be a total disaster for them in the midterms.
Which is incredible. I mean, Kareem, just to think about, to get to a point where, some of these points we were going through about U.S. troops and this implication that they're going to be removed from being, proximity to Iran, which could imply all bases in the Middle East. I mean, it is a stunning moment we're in. What do you see here?
Well, it is a shocking moment. That document reads like it could have been unilaterally written by the government of Iran. 4 months ago, when President Trump launched this war, he laid out these conditions of destroying their nuclear program, their missiles, their regional proxies, potentially unseating the regime. And what a dramatic turnaround. This document doesn't resolve any of those issues. And not only that, it's essentially ceding the Strait of Hormuz to Iran. It's saying over 60 days, we can have a conversation about Iran regaining administrative control. And so this is a massive strategic defeat for the United States. I just say 2 additional caveats, Aaron. One is that this is a pause in the war. And I think that the Iranians perhaps don't take for granted that on 2 occasions in the past when they've been negotiating with Trump, he resumed attacks on them. So yeah. I'm not convinced that this is necessarily the end of the story either.
Dasha, who is Trump listening to most when it comes to Iran?
Well, look, we know this about Trump, those of us who have been following him, that he likes to do a poll every once in a while of the people close to him. And from the beginning, he's had maximalists in his camp, and he's had the folks that have wanted a diplomatic pathway out of this. And you've had folks like Steve Witkoff, like Jared Kushner, and like Vice President J.D. Vance, that through this entire period have been pushing for diplomacy. And you have seen the president, every time the more hawkish people in his circles have told me he's going to resume a bigger scale military campaign, he's actually pulled back from the brink of that and instead push for a deal. And so that is the camp that has won out here.
Kareem, what when you talk about the incredible strategic failure that you see, what has this done to America's stature more broadly around the world?
Well, I think on a couple important issues, it's done enormous damage to our stature. Number one is that our partners in the region and throughout the world, America's allies, we led them to economic ruin over the last 4 months. And now in this document, it says we're essentially going to be pulling out of the Middle East. So our allies, both in the Middle East and globally, I think, are really thinking twice about their partnership with us. And our adversaries are also thinking twice about American resolve. Finally, there was a time when America was the country that was the beacon for all freedom fighters around the world. And what President Trump did over the last 4 months is essentially threw the Iranian people under the bus. He kept encouraging them to rise up. He said, help is on the way. Perhaps tens of thousands of Iranians were massacred. And over the last couple of days, he said, I don't care about change in Iran. This new regime is fine. They have a respected supreme leader. And so, it's really soiled public opinion among Iranians about certainly President Trump.